Go ahead, Mr. Burke.
Your Honor, if you could also share the screen so I could put some things up there.
Hopefully I can. You want the full screen?
Yes, if you could.
There you go.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Lieutenant. Could you just state your name and spell your name for the record?
Matthew DeLisa, D-E-L-I-S-A.
Okay, and you work at Chardon Police Department, right?
I do.
What is your rank?
I'm a lieutenant.
And so what are your everyday duties and responsibilities as lieutenant?
I do oversee the daily responsibilities and duties of the officers, reviewing reports, arrests, citations, their investigations. I do overview and supervise all the criminal investigations with the Chardon Police Department, along with my administrative duties, scheduling, things to that effect.
Did you ever take part in the investigations themselves as well?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So are you familiar with the investigation into the murder that we're addressing today involving Stephen Kurzinger?
I am.
Okay. So I guess I'd like to direct your attention to June 25th of 2025 at approximately 9:13 p.m. Did Chardon get dispatched regarding a 911 call that was received?
Yes, we did.
Okay, and what was the nature of that 911 call?
The call came in from a neighbor in the 300 block of Irma Drive, Chardon Park Estates, that she heard, she believed were gunshots. As she looked out her window to investigate what was going on, she looked across the street, 318 Irma Drive. She noticed a body laying on the front porch. She also gave information that she remembers seeing a silver gray vehicle parked in the driveway that was no longer there.
Okay. And what did Chardon officers discover when they arrived on scene?
We had two of our officers respond. As they reached the 318 Irma Drive address, they did notice a deceased female, later identified as Alexandria Kurzinger, on the front porch with apparent gunshot wounds to the face. And she is the sole occupant of that residence.
So no one else was in the residence?
No one else, no.
Now, how quickly after receiving that 911 call was the defendant taken into custody?
I want to say it was anywhere between a half hour to 40 minutes.
And where did that occur, and how did that go down?
That occurred actually in Lake County, Concord Township on Ravenna Road. Apparently after the shooting, the defendant went to the Ravenna Road address, made contact with the residents there, a Christina Newman, and I believe a Nathaniel Woolley lived there as well. They confronted each other out in the driveway there, where at that time Mr. Kurzinger admitted to killing his ex-wife. In turn, Ms. Newman contacted the police department. Sheriff's officers arrived, took Mr. Kurzinger into custody, and secured the gray silver vehicle that he came to the house in.
And then did Chardon officers take custody of him from the
Yeah, yes, as they were Chardon and Geauga County deputy officers responded to custody of both the vehicle and him.
Okay. And in looking at in the vehicle, were officers able to find anything of note at that time?
Yes, as they looked in the vehicle, in plain view, they can see a black gun, and it would have been in the driver's door compartment, like a pouch in the door compartment, driver's front door compartment. They also noticed a gun magazine next to that gun, a wallet up closer to where the door handle is, and a loose 9mm round next to that wallet.
And if you could look at the screen, I'm going to show you what I'm marking as State's Exhibit 1 photograph. So what does that photograph depict?
That shows the weapon in the pouch, magazine next to it. If you look above, there's the black wallet with the loose 9mm round.
That would be right around here, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And was the gun processed by BCI?
Yes, it was.
And were they able to determine if this was in fact the gun used in the murder?
That was the gun used in the murder, yes.
Okay. Now, you also mentioned that there's a wallet in that picture. Did you find anything of note in that wallet?
Yes, when we inventoried the wallet, we found the defendant's driver's license in there along with his social security card, numerous credit cards that came back to him, We found some loose cash, I think it was about $3 or $4 in cash, along with some business cards. And we also found a white, looked like a credit card receipt from a Gold Star pawn in Willowick for about, I think it was $288 and some change.
I'm going to show you what we've marked as State's Exhibit 2. Do you recognize that?
Yes, that's the receipt that we found in the wallet.
Okay, and was there a date on the receipt?
It was June, yeah,
If you can read that.
June 13th, 25.
Okay, so that would have been, what, about 12 days prior to the murder?
That's correct, yes.
So, did Chardon follow up at all with Gold Star Pawn to determine what this receipt was for?
Yeah, we followed up with Gold Star Pawn immediately, contacted them. They were able to look up the purchase. We found out that a gun was purchased on that date by the defendant, a 9mm Taurus, I think it's a model G2C handgun, and a box of 9mm ammunition. I believe it's a Blazer brand.
And you said you were able to confirm it. How did you confirm that it was him, in fact, who was in the store?
Well, we got the original receipt. We actually got video from him in the store purchasing the weapon.
Okay, I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 3. Do you recognize that?
Yes, that's a photograph from video that we received of the defendant holding the gun that he purchased.
Now, you mentioned that the gun matched the shooting. You also, though, mentioned that he purchased some ammunition.
Yes.
And the ammunition that he purchased, do you remember how many rounds there were?
It was a 50-round box of ammunition.
Okay. Then, kind of jumping forward in your investigation, but taking into consideration the shells that were located on scene, the bullets in the magazine, the loose round, and then the ammunition you found in the vehicle, were you able to, did that all add up to 50 rounds?
That all added up to 50 rounds.
Okay.
Yes, correct.
Now, that night, when the defendant was taken into custody, did Chardon officers receive any information regarding the defendant's movements, either prior to and after the shooting?
Yes.
And first of all, where did that come from?
We actually, during the course of our investigation, we got video from places all around the Chardon area, before, during, and after the incident. We were also able to track his route through a Life 360 app that shows his locations at various times throughout the day.
And Your Honor, in State's Exhibit 4, what we've done is compiled segments of the video that Lieutenant DeLisa has referenced. It's about 60 minutes. I'm not going to play the whole thing. I'll be jumping ahead, but I'll just have him explain what we're seeing and what the video shows. So, Lieutenant, first of all, I note up in the corner we see a date and timestamp of June 25th of 2025, 2058, so that would have been about 8:58, correct?
Correct.
And I'll pause it back. Where is that camera, where's that footage coming from?
That first footage that we showed, yeah, right, that's coming from the residence of Chardon, which is on the northeast corner of Grant Street, Chardon, Windsor, and Southampton Street,
And
facing west.
okay. And in relation to where the murder occurred, where is this?
Kind of hard to see. Up in the middle, you can see a stop sign there, right by that area, that is Irma Drive.
Okay.
The address was 318 Irma Drive, so that's where the vehicle came from.
Okay. And so I'll start playing it, and if you can let us know if you see the defendant's vehicle.
Yeah, right there. And he goes from Irma Drive, stop sign, takes a left, heading westbound on Southampton Street, up towards Charlottesville.
And
Here's the vehicle again, at the top of Chardon Square, continuing heading westbound onto Water Street. That view right there is from the Chardon Fire Department, which is, I think, they're on the northeast corner of the square. This is the second view from the Chardon Fire Department vehicle coming up to the stop sign. stopping and then continuing westbound over the top of the square onto Water Street westbound.
And his is this darker silver?
Yeah, the darker gray vehicle.
Okay. I'm going to jump ahead a bit. What are we seeing here?
That is Maple Leaf Plaza, specifically Sheets parking lot right there.
Okay. This would be another angle from
That's correct.
Sheets.
Yes.
And this would have been if he just continued straight on the road. He would
Yeah,
have
if you were to
been-
continue straight on to Water Street, this takes you right down to Sheets at the bottom of the hill.
Okay. And is this in fact him again parking?
That is correct, yes.
And what are we seeing here?
You see him walking in the Sheets. He's walking back by the coolers. Eventually takes a right. The top right-hand corner are restrooms, so he goes in the restroom for a while. Doesn't purchase anything.
And then is this him then leaving?
Yeah, exiting,
And
going
it-
past the registers and out the same door he came in.
And it appears he's on a cell phone texting someone at that time.
Yes, that is him. Blue shirt, khaki shorts.
So then this would be him returning to his vehicle after using
Yes.
the bathroom. The other angle that we saw earlier. And then is that him returning?
Yeah, he goes the same route as he went to Sheets. Eastbound up Water Street, over the top of the square, back onto South Andrew Street, eastbound, to where he comes up to Irma Drive again and then turns onto Irma Drive.
And I know it's somewhat blocked by a vehicle here, but we saw it. The
Yes.
vehicle starting to turn.
Yeah, he's turning in where those other vehicles are.
And that would then would be in the direction of the victim's residence, correct?
That's correct, yes.
I'm going to pause things here at approximately 21:10 or 9:10 p.m. for a moment. So, Lieutenant, were you also able to obtain the defendant's cell phone
Yes.
during the investigation?
Yes, we were.
And were you able to do an extraction of the cell phone?
Yes.
And did you locate any text messages between him and the victim from that day
We
prior
did.
to the incident?
Yes, we did.
Okay, I'm going to pull it up, and I think you also have a copy in front of you. This is State's Exhibit 5, the text messages. And just to explain it, when the extraction was done, it pulled each text 3 times, correct? So
Yeah,
it's
they
not that
extracted it
it's
3
sent.
times, so they didn't send 3 of the same text messages.
We're just looking at the text, the column, so outgoing means that he is sending this message, correct?
That's correct.
And if it says incoming, it means he's receiving the message.
Yes,
And these messages were sent to to and from the victim's phone.
that's correct.
And the name that he put in there, that would have been the name that he assigned to her.
Exactly.
Okay, and then in the description is the text, the conversation, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, could you read that first text for me?
Yes. Hey, I have a couple things I was wanting to talk to you about, like holidays and such. I was wondering if I could swing by so we could discuss before court, question mark.
Okay, so this reference to court, in the course of your investigation, were you able to determine what he's referring to?
Yes, they had a ongoing custody dispute. I believe it was up in Lake County for the children, visitation, things of that effect.
And were you able to determine when their next court hearing was?
Yes, their next court hearing was supposed to be on the 26th of June, the very next day.
Very next day, okay. And so then the next text, she responds, right, because it's incoming. She's saying she's working, but will be home around 3, and that she has visitation, correct?
Correct.
And then he refers to maybe talking about getting together after visitation, talking about wanting to co-parent better, again, working things out prior to the court hearing, correct?
That's correct.
And then, so they're talking about meeting up, and what does she say about meeting up? You're on number 10.
Yeah, no, she responds back, you can stop over after visitation, but I'm telling you now, you're not allowed any name calling or yelling. He goes, she says, I will walk out. and that there are cameras outside too.
And then she proposes around 7 p.m., it looks like.
That's correct.
And then he responds, what does he suggest?
Yeah, he responds, we can go back, we can go to a park or for a drive. If you feel better about that, I just want to have a plan.
And then he says, not, Christina will be there, no kids, just I'm talking about the kids.
Yes.
And what is her response to his suggestion to leaving the residence?
She just basically says, hey, we can stay in the stay in my driveway.
And he agrees to that.
He
by
agrees,
saying,
yes.
okay. And then these two things, it looks like, would those just be consistent with maybe making a quick phone call to that number?
Yes, yeah, those two calls right there.
Okay. And then, at 9:10, these last ones, what does he text her?
At 9:10, I believe this was him coming back from Sheets, that he just texted her back that I'm back.
Mhm.
We're soon back at the residence at 318 room.
So, then, Your Honor, going back to the video, we have the timestamp of 9:10 up in the corner. I'm just going to play this last a couple minutes. Lieutenant, you just heard some bangs or pops. Were you able to determine what those sounds were?
Those were the two gunshots.
There was about a 3-second
Delay,
pause
yeah,
between the two.
in between the first and the second.
And then eventually, do you see the defendant's vehicle leaving Irma Drive?
Yes. You'll see shortly leaving Irma, taking a right onto Southampton, and then he will be taking a left onto Grand Street, coming right in front of the screen.
So we see a black SUV or a black truck.
Yes.
And right behind it is that his vehicle.
That is the great, yes.
And Lieutenant, the direction he was going, that would have been in the direction ultimately of where he was found at Christina Newman's residence.
That's correct.
All right, so now, going back to the scene of the crime, regarding the victim's body, how many gunshot wounds did she sustain?
There were two gunshot wounds.
And you reviewed the autopsy report. What were the findings? Where were these gunshot wounds located?
There were two to the front of the face. One was on the left side, up by the nasal. I believe they called this a nasal bridge. Entered in through there. When they did the autopsy, they did find a bullet fragment from that round going in.
So there was no exit wound from that?
That's
shot.
correct. No exit wound from that.
How about the second shot?
The second one was in the right cheek area. went through, exited out the left, back, I believe up the scalp area. Yeah, an exit wound. We were unable to locate that round.
And did they make any determinations of which one of those caused the death?
They said either one would have been a fatal shot.
Now, while her body was still on scene, were you able to view her body?
Yes, I was.
And did you notice anything regarding the gunshot wound to her right cheek?
I did. When I went up to examine the gunshot wound on the cheek, I found what they call stippling, which is scratching, small scratch marks, burn marks, and they come from the muzzle of the gun. So when the gun is fired, projectiles come out and do kind of like a discoloration, some scratching on the face.
So for that to happen, about how close generally does a gun need to be to a body?
It is a very close range shot. It would have to be close, very close for that to occur.
Now, again, it's been mentioned there's 2 gunshots that happened, 2 wounds. Were you able to recover the casings for both of those?
Yes, we were both casings at the scene.
I'm going to show you first State's Exhibit 6. So I know we have a couple placards here. Do you remember where the first casing was found?
The first casing is number 1. It's right out in front of the porch on the front lawn.
Okay. And then where was the second casing found?
You can see the porch on the left. That number 5 is where the second casing was found, directly to the right of the porch.
Okay. And when casings are ejected, can you kind of explain what happens when a casing is ejected from a firearm?
Yeah, sure. They're, when a shot's fired, obviously the round goes out. The case is ejected through a port on the right part of the gun. So when it ejects, it obviously tends to go to the right.
And about how far generally? Is there a
Yeah.
standard line?
Yeah, it can be, a couple feet. It could even be inches as well, so.
And then when the victim's body was removed from the scene, did you find anything of note under where she was laying?
Yeah, the top of the porch where the victim was found, it's like a composite wood, like Trex decking platform on top of the wood. So when they removed the victim in the head area where the gunshots were located, they found what they call a ballistic impact. And it's like a indent or gouge in the Trex decking from a fast-moving projectile when it hits a solid surface. It causes that.
And I'm going to pull up State's Exhibit 8. Is that what this image shows?
Yes, that's correct.
And as you previously mentioned, with the autopsy findings, the gunshot wound to the cheek, there was an exit wound on the back of her head.
Yes, it was.
And would that have been consistent with this ballistic impact?
Yes.
And I think you also mentioned, though, you ended up never finding the actual bullet itself.
We could not find the round of that. That's correct.
All right. So, Lieutenant, based upon your investigation and everything you've gone through here, were you guys able to put together a belief of how the shooting went down?
Yes.
Could you explain that to
Yes, just based upon our investigation, the evidence that we located, obviously help from the medical examiner's office and BCI, crime scene investigators. We believe that Mr. Kurzinger came back to 318 Irma Drive approximately at 9:10 that evening, pulled his car in the driveway, exited the car with his 9mm revolver, or pistol, approached the victim, who was on the porch, the front porch at the time. As he got closer, he fired one round, which went in the left side, striking the bridge, nasal bridge, which dropped the victim to the ground. He approached closer up to the porch, and at close range, fired a second round, which went through the cheek, exited out through the back of the head, and then causing that ballistic impact on the Trex decking. Then he entered the vehicle, left the scene, and was eventually arrested at Ravenna Road.
And again, we heard those gunshots that were just before about 9:10 p.m.
Yes,
And the 911 call comes in at 9:13, correct?
that's correct.
And he's out of there pretty much immediately, correct?
Yes.
Thank you, I have nothing further.
Thank you, Mr. DeLisi. You may step down. Officer, Lieutenant